Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and if you appreciate the velvety deep thing that my voice is doing right now, hit that like button and subscribe, because it's only going to get better from here if you can enjoy my voice while it's completely fucked from screaming like a fangirl at a rap show. Then you can appreciate me at any time, I'm sure.
This dude literally heard one of my songs and was like, bro, come record. This dude literally recorded me for fucking free, cause he fucked with me, bro. Yes. This became my fucking best friend. All this suppression got my mind stressing, and I'm asking for divine blessings. I know God is tired of all my questions. Guess you can blame it on these rap sessions.
So, I have been on vacation, still on vacation, so please excuse any editing irregularities in this video, and I'm not really, I do have some recent news that I want to talk about, but I've been kind of thinking about what I've put out previously and where I want to move forward, and kind of some of the news that's come up. And kind of the first thing that I'm thinking about, and like as I was making stuff before I left, and I'm going to have to describe this video later for sure, but I was making a guide for one of the players within my guild, and I was thinking, like, you know, everyone should build Lucio, for sure. If you take nothing else away from this, you know, even no matter what kind of player you are, especially if you're a newer player though, or a returning player, build Lucio. He's a good core, and he helps you get a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to get without him. But you know, I was building a guide for one of the most counterintuitive levels, and honestly, even though the guide that I'm putting out is pretty long, you know, if I were to edit this into a series about some of the harder missions, I could cut it down to about a minute, because really, once you understand two very counterintuitive things about this fight, it actually doesn't become too hard to actually beat. There's just a lot of RNG involved, and way too much for me to feel comfortable about, and to get the footage that I needed for that video, I had to run that mission so many times, and so many very long runs for like over an hour of just trying to prove to myself that there wasn't a really easy way that I was missing that made this level super hard. And while technically I do have a huge improvement to my initial strategy, ultimately my conclusion is still that mission requires you to do some terrible things. And you know, this really highlighted one thing for me that I want to mention real quickly up front, and that is issues for new players, and the fact that, you know, a lot of these things that should be communicated just aren't, and there aren't a lot of YouTube channels that are frequently targeted at new players. Like when you start your YouTube channel, or maybe every year you update some basic guides or something, but there aren't really players out there that are necessarily constantly making and updating that beginner content quite as frequently. And I feel like that's a niche that I can kind of fit into, especially as a guild leader, because I'm constantly taking on newer returning players, or basically anyone who is, for whatever reason, having catch up with the meta in the game. I generally have a lot of good advice for them, practical advice for them, because I deal with them kind of on a day-to-day basis as a guild leader. And that's really the perspective that I want to bring to this channel and to a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, other than the stuff where I think like there's something that the main overviews of these characters or something doesn't address. If I think that there's a kind of a black hole around an issue within the world of community, I'll talk about that. But other than that, I think I want to focus more on stuff that are roadblocks for new players. And new players, if you're listening to this, or returning players that don't know a lot about the newer updates or some of the newer stuff, that are trying to get back into this, tell me what's roadblocking you, what you're having yourself a hard time getting your head around. Let's see. Also, to address some of the recent news with, I think, the Alchemist Code and another Square Enix game, mobile game, kind of in the same gacha space, going down. I mean, let's be real. At this point in time, in 2023, they weren't doing as good as either of the FFPE games. I don't expect this to affect our games in a negative light. I don't expect either one to shut down. Even FFPE, which is probably in the more questionable position, even with everything going on in Motive. But what I do hope that this means is that the kind of mobile division of Square Enix is refocusing their developers and their resources and is doubling down, hopefully, on what's working. Kind of like what we saw, you know, after the whole NFT saga that happened when Square Enix sold a lot of their, I think, Canadian properties or Canadian development studios in order to refocus on, I forget what the player experience they were trying to refocus on. Maybe it was this kind of silver age of Final Fantasy that we're seeing. I don't remember. But I think it's a good idea for a company that's potentially spread itself too thin in the economic good times to kind of take a step back and focus on what made the franchise that we are all fans of popular to begin with. And I think in Wotive that definitely has to be done with kind of respecting the aging of collaboration characters and making sure that they get updated alongside other units, you know, kind of keeping the same pace. Because those are the characters that we came for, those are the ones that we came to play. Everything else, if we get bonded with it or whatever through the story, that's cool, but everything else is icing on the cake. Make sure the cake tastes good, and make sure the cake does not age poorly under the icing, is what I'm saying in a nutshell. In terms of stuff I'm making in the future, one thing that I want to revisit is my free characters video. In one part, because for one, we have a lot more free characters. For two, I missed Etra, probably because I just didn't want to talk about Etra, but it doesn't seem fair that I didn't mention her, especially with her being relevant maybe to Limited Strike. But also, I feel like I need to update that because there's a lot more free characters, and I also want to refocus on Lucio and how important he will be to the 140 meta, being the only completely free 140 character. And again, why new players should build Lucio. And to that effect, ultimately I want to make a mission guide, or at least like 10 or 15 minute video, just giving you a few quick tips on a few of the things that are hanging people up. Again, give me some missions if you're going through the Lucio missions and you notice some bottlenecks, and I can explain to you really quickly at the beginning of the guide how to get around most of those bottlenecks.
I'm so happy that we got it right, and it took a few tries and a big old fight.
Just by kind of working around them in some cases, but if you need help with any of the missions, just let me know what you need in the comments of this video, and I'll try to include that in the Lucio Mission Guide. And now that I've explained that, I gotta talk about the mission that almost broke me, and eventually I'm gonna have probably a video guide out for this first that kind of chronicles the experience of me going into this thinking that the mission was completely broken, me realizing that, okay, my build was kind of inefficient, but then pushing through that anger, continuing to record until I realized that yes, this mission is actually in fact kind of broken. There is an easy way around it if you think about it, but fundamentally kind of bad game design. It really broke my faith there for a minute. I needed to take a vacation after that video just because just don't make something so important to an important character in the game so RNG based. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, again, newer players that are kind of hitting me up in the comments, please tell me what you don't know about, what your guild leader hasn't explained to you, especially if you aren't in a guild with a Discord or don't have a particularly talkative guild leader, or what you aren't getting from the other YouTubers that you would rather get from this channel, or what you think I should focus on. Again, all of your suggestions are greatly appreciated, and thank you for bearing with me while this is probably kind of jankily edited and my voice is absolutely garbage. Thank you for sticking around, like and subscribe, you know the shit. See you in the next video.